You're very welcome to Sport for Business, Nikki, and congratulations on Try with Pride. It is a really good case study in how to do things right. Tell me, what was the inspiration behind you wanting to bring this to life during a time when isolation was going to be exacerbated, when sport and physical activity was going to be off people's agenda? What was it that made you think now is the right time for us to do this?
Well, I think the common thread with everybody that's spoken this morning is that everything starts with a conversation with Aidan. And we were no different. Aidan and Karina have been absolutely amazing from day one. We spoke to them very early on, and we, with almost instantly, we knew we wanted to work together. We're working on our inclusion and diversity strategy and have it completed, but still kind of putting our final touches to it. And from me personally, as far as I'm concerned, sport is for everybody. And obviously with the last year and a half, regardless of any type of background or whatever you have going on in your life, everybody's social life, everybody's sporting life, everybody's everything just stopped last March. And Triathlon Ireland from very early on, just threw everything online. We wanted everybody to feel that they could continue with their training and continue to stay as motivated as they could during those difficult months. So outside of the Try with Pride program, we had some of our staff jump on the turbos and offer. Gary Crossan had a very famous at this stage regular, I think it was 3 days a week. He was doing Zoom sessions with juniors, with adults, with everybody. And after speaking with Aidan, we decided to go ahead with a pilot program aimed at the LGBTQ plus community, with the main aim being to encourage people from the community into triathlon. It was very much a pilot program. We wanted to keep the numbers relatively small so we could use the people that joined as a little bit of a focus group along the way, because obviously, their input is what was going to make this a success. And that's kind of how it started. It was very much, we wanted everybody to feel welcome. Because it was a completely online virtual program, the first that we had done, we actually ended up going with the duathlon because obviously all the swimming pools were closed. So our main challenge was to figure out a way to make people feel as welcome and feel that they could get to know each other through a screen, which is difficult. We've all tried to do that over the last year with Zooms. And it's not easy, but that was kind of one of our main goals, was for people to form friendships through the program.
Okay, it clearly worked. The fact that you're held up as a poster child by a number of sporting bodies that I was speaking to in terms of getting this session prepared. The sort of the world of triathlon, were you aware prior to going into it that this was something that you needed to reach out to the LGBTQ community, or was it something that was that was already quite a vibrant sort of side? Because obviously it's a very hard sport, but it is a very social sport as well, and it's one that you can be attracted to as an individual, so it doesn't have those extra barriers that Richie was speaking about there of the team environment and the locker room. Is it a sport where we have been closer to doing things right in advance of the recent improvements?
So we have had people that are members of our already existing clubs around the country. However, what we didn't have was a club exclusively. Now, I think we may have something in Dublin, but we didn't have one that could involve everybody around the country. And I always think that even if we are in some ways leading the way in one area, no sport is ever perfect. No, I don't think any sport could say, yeah, we've ticked that box. That's us now. We're the experts. We're brilliant. I think everybody's always learning, and that's in inclusion in general. With we're always working with people with disabilities to try and make our sport a little bit easier and more accessible. So I would say that as much as this program was I think, needed. We weren't at a stage where we had nothing happening beforehand. And we have people that are within our own organization that were on hand to offer advice. And obviously we had Sporting Pride who have been absolutely brilliant, because, you know, there are certain things we want everybody to feel comfortable, and we want to create that safe environment, and without realizing certain things can be overlooked. And that's why the likes of Sporting Pride are so important, to have them on hand to offer advice.
A great organization, obviously, and anybody who's watching that feels the need to offer some support. It doesn't need to be financial, but sometimes just a shoulder to lean on can be very valuable when you're in that volunteer space that Aidan and Karina and their team are in. The sort of the question of what impact it might have coming out. There are so many variables as we re-engage with society and re-engage with each other and with sport and all. Is there a way in which you're going to be able to measure the sort of the longer term impact of Try with Pride as a specific campaign within the sport?
Well, before I answer that, I might actually very quickly run through just the ins and outs of the program. So it was basically a 6-week online program. It required training, as in, like, the participants had to physically go out and train by themselves. However, we provided everything else online. So we had training sessions or training plans put together by Gary Crossan. We had our strength and conditioning class every Monday night with our development officer, Eleanor, who's absolutely just a ball of energy. One of our Beyond the Finish Line advocates with Triathlon Ireland is nutritionist Fiona O'Donnell. She was absolutely brilliant. She came on and provided everything that they could need to know about nutrition. And then every Tuesday evening, we had a check-in with me. So the idea behind the check-in was, it was a Zoom session. I think it was on at 6 o'clock in the evening, simply half an hour where everybody came in, checked in with each other, and that was where the real networking happened. Because that was where we not only encouraged people to share the training progress, but to talk to each other and to share their own stories. So one of the weeks we actually opened it up to the participants themselves to share their stories, to share if they wanted to share their coming out stories. If they didn't want to, just simply share their sporting stories. And even things like, we gave them the option, when we did launch the program, we gave people the option to not use their camera, because we were also conscious that not everybody has actually come out officially yet, but still wanted to participate in the program. So there were some of our participants that were there. I could see their name there every week, but they never, spoke up to the other groups, but they still got the same from it. And moving forward, so this is very much, as I said, a pilot program. So they've all been warned that they are part of a focus group. So when they finished the pilot, that wasn't the end of their participation with this program. I've told them all to tune in today. So for those that missed the memo, your job isn't over yet. You're still part of the program. So we have a phase 2 coming. So obviously with the pandemic, we weren't able to meet up in public. That was the whole kind of reason behind it going virtual. But we really wanted to be able to have a follow-up program and actually have a triathlon, a new to try with the guys, where they could meet in person and compete against each other, obviously in an informal way. So that will be the next phase, which we'll be starting from Monday. Actually, we'll be starting to organize that. And the plan after that then is to, if other sporting organizations would like to kind of use our template, we're more than happy for that, because that's this isn't just a triathlon program. This is an inclusion program. And yes, obviously our sport is triathlon, but this can be adapted so easily to any sport. What the heart of the program was having everybody connect online. And I actually think that even when we start meeting in person, being able to do that in this particular space is so important, because it creates that safe environment. So I've high hopes for this program continuing on for years to come. And we were blown away by the interest with the pilot. So I'm hopeful that when we do roll it out again, we'll get the same, if not more numbers.
and manageable, so that the number of people that come in doesn't become one of those Zoom sessions where you've got 1,000 people all trying to shout at each other.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
The small steps are the most important ones to take. Exactly. But that's brilliant, and and what an offer to actually sort of share that experience of how to do something really well with other sports who can do it just as well themselves, and we'd be happy to facilitate anything on that as well. That's what we're about, trying to highlight the good work of one to make somebody else's life that little bit easier, because what you share you gain in terms of engagement and things like that as well.
Exactly.
The sort of the brass tacks of it, that check-in side of it and the engagement, did you find that was working a little bit better after a tweak? Were you tweaking it as you went along? So where you ended up at the end of the program, were you in a significantly different place to where you were when you thought about it in the first place?
In terms of the bare bones of the program stayed the same, as in it stayed a 6-week program. It stayed quite structural in that we had our strength conditioning on a Monday, the check-ins on a Tuesday, that type of thing stayed the same. However, from day 0, even before day 1, we made it very clear that this was a pilot and that we needed, not just wanted, we needed the input from the participants. So we did actually send out a survey halfway through, and we gave them the option to change things up if they wanted to. And we said nothing was set in stone. If they felt that, let's say just for example, if they felt that we could be offering more during those Tuesday night check-ins, if they felt that we could be doing a bit more than just having a chat, that maybe we could be setting a bit of kind of homework or something like that. That was all open to them. And now, thankfully, they were happy with how it went. My personal highlight was seeing the relationships and the friendships forming throughout. So, and I think this is quite, normal with any type of program, that nobody really wants to speak up at the beginning. You have any questions at the end, and everybody kind of looks at their feet. And, in real life, in those, when we're in person, that happens as well. Nobody wants to ask the first question, because God forbid you ask the wrong thing. And what I loved was that even by the second week, people were starting, I kind of was able to take a step back during the check-ins and let them speak to each other. There wasn't that embarrassment of not wanting to speak to someone that they hadn't met in person. And by the end of it, they were already planning to, do an event in, I think there was something happening in the Phoenix Park. We set up a WhatsApp group, which is still on the go now. And that's been actually brilliant. It's been a really informal way for the group to stay in touch. And again, I've been able to, as much as I facilitated, I'm kind of able to take a step back and just, I feel like they're my little children. And I'm so happy that they've all come together. And when I see them chatting and planning things themselves, it just highlights that the program was worth doing, and that it makes me feel delighted.
Great. Well, it's nice to be told that you're doing a good job. And Elaine Buckley, who does a great job herself in bringing us all of those wonderful montages of Irish sport, from hockey and football and everything else, she says that it was superb. Roll on the next chapter, Nikki. So
Elaine's great.
So there you go. High praise indeed from there. Nikki, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us today in such colourful fashion as well. It has been a pleasure, and it really was. I just kept on hearing Try with Pride. That's one that you really need to be looking at. So I'm delighted that we've had an opportunity to do that today. Congratulations on it, and I look forward to hearing more about how it develops and across multi-sports as well in the time to come. So thanks very much to Nikki. Thanks very much to all the rest for your comments and that as well. Joanne Foley is talking about how she'd like to know more about the support for organisations that Irish Wheelchair Association support. Extremely interested in ensuring that we're using the correct language and offering an inclusive environment, and I think that's a universal one as well. And Declan Duffy, good friend, talking about bringing Nelson Mandela and quoting it into it as well, wondering, does the Department of Education and the people at Sport Ireland talk to each other on issues like this as well? We'll come back to that.